In this video, I'll show you how to unlock the secrets of your body's pain defense system and how to take control of your rehabilitation. Pain can be frustrating, debilitating, and even overwhelming, but it's also your body's way of telling you that something is wrong. For example, overtraining or under-recovering. But this defense system can be more complex than you think. And when recovering from a running injury, it's important to understand this complexity. By now, hopefully you've watched the first 8 steps of this playlist, designed to help you overcome your injury and see your rehab in a different way. And if this is the first time you're hearing about this playlist, you've stumbled onto step 9 out of 10. But I'm here to make things easy for you, and above is the link to go straight to step 1. So far throughout this 10-step rehab journey, we've mainly focused our attention on the load versus capacity model. In other words, making our decisions on the assumption that the pain you're experiencing is related to the mechanical load. Take Cody's flare-up as an example. Remember when he was feeling good and decided to run a bit too far and a bit too fast, and he experienced that moderate flare-up. This is when the pain makes mechanical sense. But sometimes the pain system behaves differently, either not making mechanical sense, or there is a massive overreaction from the pain system when a mild load increase is created. For example, if Cody had an 8 out of 10 pain lasting for 5 days after this mild increase, you would count this as an overreaction from the pain system. Whether your pain is making mechanical or non-mechanical sense, it all has to do with the brain. Let me explain. While most people are led to believe the pain is generated from the injury and the damaged tissues, it's actually purely generated from the brain. The brain gets a message saying that something is wrong, and then it gathers as much data as possible to work out how serious and how threatening the situation is. It will then decide whether to generate pain or not. If the brain decides to produce pain, it also gathers data to determine how much pain to generate. This is where it gets tricky, because sometimes the data it gathers can generate disproportionate amounts. Let's look at 3 things the brain uses in its evaluation. The first thing it uses is context, meaning what are the circumstances surrounding this injury. For a runner, you could roll your ankle mid-race and have a dampened pain response because the brain has decided pain isn't important right now and you need to get to the finish line before seeking medical attention. In another context, you could roll your ankle during a training run with a really important race coming up in 2 weeks' time, and with the worry of not being able to race it or not, this same injury can amplify pain. There are hundreds of factors that play into this context and the circumstances of your injury that the brain is constantly evaluating. Aside from context, the brain also uses past experiences and prior knowledge. This could be your personal experience with a similar injury, or experience from a close friend, or your previous understanding of the injury. For example, if you develop low back pain, and you have an uncle who has crippling low back pain and has now found himself in a wheelchair, your brain is going to raise the overall seriousness and therefore produce a higher level of pain. Conversely, you could have a good knowledge of the injury and reassurance that there is nothing serious, and the brain will respond in kind. While there are plenty of other factors that influence pain sensitivity, such as sleep, stress, and nutrition, which we discussed in step 8, the third and final domain I want to discuss is your emotional state and your personality. Think of this as the brain's default mode. Even before any relevant information about your injury is factored in. If you have a history of anxiety or depression, you're more likely to fear the worst, catastrophize any potential outcome, focus on the negatives, and dwell on elements of your rehab that are out of your control. Such a default state immediately puts your brain into overdrive, which distributes an unreasonable amount of pain. Say Cody is the nervous, jittery, fearful type of person and develops his initial knee pain. Maybe these thoughts pop into his head. Is running dangerous for my knees? Am I developing osteoarthritis? Or maybe my kneecap is falling out of place. Am I always going to have pain when I start exercising? Will this injury threaten my ability to work, make an income, and provide for my family? Okay, these are pretty extreme thoughts, but you can see ruminating in these negative thoughts will fire up the brain and create a very sensitive nervous system. It is these traits where runners often have unexplained flare-ups, high levels of pain from seemingly innocent progressions, poor responses to pain medication, and a pain pattern that responds more on a particular mood of the day rather than the mechanical load that's applied throughout that day. Okay, Brody, so what does this mean when it comes to my recovery? Well, if this is resonating with you and your particular journey, you need to still apply the previous 8 steps on this playlist, but layer on additional treatment methods addressing the psychological component. In other words, we need to build strategies to lower the unnecessary level of threat perceived by the brain. Let's go back to Cody. After his negative thoughts spin out of control, he goes onto the YouTube banner and books in a free injury chat. I explained to him that his pain is perfectly normal and isn't arthritis or a joint falling out of place, but rather due to a simple overload of the joint. I address his fears and let him know that running is perfectly safe for his knees, and research shows that runners are less likely to get knee OA compared to the sedentary population. I then answer any other fears and worries Cody has and come up with a simple plan to rebuild strength, and I write him up a roadmap to get his running back under control. Even moments after our call, Cody's pain is starting to settle and the brain's level of urgency is starting to calm down. For pain that is more chronic in nature, a more comprehensive approach in the same direction is needed. On top of getting reassurance from your medical staff, you could start implementing positive self-talk, visualization exercises, breathing exercises, meditation, and many other tasks to unwind the overactive brain. Don't interpret this information as someone telling you that the pain isn't there and that you're making it up. It is very common to be told it's all in your head and instantly think people don't believe your pain experience. Because the term "the pain is in your head" gets misinterpreted so much, I often phrase it another way. But in a sense, yes, pain is all in your head, only because 100% of all the pain in all circumstances comes from the brain. What we mean to say is that your pain experience is real, but if the pain is chronic in nature, full recovery is very difficult unless you work on settling down your sensitized defense system and start to see pain as complex and multifactorial. In fact, we have research to show that people can have the same type of injury and have the same pain severity, but their recovery is prolonged purely just by negative thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. I've seen this firsthand with my clients, and I've even shared one story on the Run Smarter podcast. Maddie had severe plantar fasciitis on both feet for 5 years, and she had been battling with her mental health even prior to this injury. We tried treating her the traditional way and didn't see much improvement. It wasn't until Maddie learnt about the influence of the brain and she forced herself to think differently. And her pain made a huge improvement in just 2 short weeks. So, hopefully with these 9 steps, you can safely and swiftly negotiate whatever running injury you're dealing with. But it wouldn't be much of a rehab journey if we didn't discuss ways to prevent it from resurfacing once you return to running symptom-free. So let's discuss this in the final video of this playlist.